Well, good morning, everyone. I'm back up at Baraboo. Time to start taking something home. But now that it's quiet here, hopefully the wind isn't too much. I'm going to show you what I'll call the Allen Rudolf collection. Everything I'm going to show you belonged to my old neighbor, Allen Rudolf. We're going to start out with his, let's call it repair. Nowadays they call it a service truck. Well, this is his service truck, and you can see it is I believe it's a 36 Ford, and you can still make out his name on the side a little bit. Allen Rudolf, Woodland, Wisconsin. When I knew him, he lived near Kleiman. He wasn't in Woodland anymore. This side you can barely make it out. This truck, I remember when I was 50 years ago, I go over there and help him, and we'd use this truck for lifting and moving things. You can see it has the boom on it. I'm missing the shiv on the top right now. I got to get that put back on. But you can see it's a homemade winch. I think it's probably a Model A transmission, a worm drive truck rear axle that was cut down, and the winch drum, and the teeth you can see are all torch cut on that ratchet for the winch drum. I used this many times when I would help him out as a teenager in early 20s. And the boom is made out of a truck frame. And the welder, I used that 50 years ago. And actually sometimes he would ask me to weld some things up because his depth perception wasn't good. He only had sight in one eye. He had lost one eye when a chip came off a hammer and went through one of his eyes in the 50s. So, like I say, the Model A engine was taken out of here for his airplane. And I've got another engine, but I haven't gotten it running. You can see it's followed up. It's built with Model A front axles, Hobart Brothers welder, and then the torch cart is behind with Model A wheels. And as you can see here, the feet here on the front would fit in pockets, and then there's a cable that would get hooked up and a winch underneath to winch it up so you could take the torch on and off the back and wheel it around the site wherever you were doing repair work. And this was his grinder, made out of a starter motor. They didn't have Milwaukee tools or Makitas or anything like that then, so that was quite clever. So he had a portable grinder. So there's his service equipment for servicing his crushing operation. And here it is, the Cat 60, which you've all seen numerous times recently. It's a 1926 Cat 60, serial number PA537, and this 60 was used to run that crusher. And I think he last used it probably in the 40s. So last fall we belted it up just for a couple minutes. We didn't run anything through it after I got the belt pulley on it. So this year is the first time stone was run through that crusher powered by this 60 in probably 75 years. Like I say, you've all seen the 60 and you've seen the crusher, but the crusher is a Russell crushing plant. I believe it's from the early 20s because I have a 28 catalog from Russell, and that's the year that Caterpillar bought out Russell. I think they bought them out to get their grader line because Russell was well known for their graders. But it's a Russell crushing plant. It has a universal crusher built in Cedar Rapids, universal jaw crusher. on the plant, but the rest of the plant was built by Russell. And I believe it's actually from the early 20s, because both flywheels on the crusher are the same size, and in the 28 catalog all the crushers would have a bigger pulley on one side or flywheel than the other, because you drive it off the flywheels, and that way you would belt up to the size which best matched the RPM of your power unit you were using. And also that latticework framework from front to rear that supports the screen deck. On the later ones in that 28 catalog, they all have a channel iron like down below instead of that lattice work. So I'm sure this is probably from the mid to early 20s, this crushing plant. And next we'll go up top and show you the jaw crusher itself. It's a 8x30 jaw opening. And this is the screen deck. It's just a single deck screen. The material they dump in the hopper on the other end, what's small enough already goes through the screen. What doesn't go through the screen comes through the crusher, goes out the bottom, up the bucket conveyor, and gets recycled again. Let's to see if it's small enough then to go through the screen. I have to see if I can tighten the jaws up a little bit, because it isn't crushing small enough, and the material keeps going around and around and around, and it takes a long time till it bunches up enough, and it's working the crusher a little too hard, just loading up. So more of the material should be going through after the first crushing, and it isn't. So next year I'm going to see, these would be the adjustments, if it would be possible to tighten the jaws up a little bit. Now we'll go down below again. Here's the eccentric that runs a shaker pan to move the crushed material out from under the jaw into the bucket conveyor on the other side. And this is a clutch system to start and stop the discharge conveyor, because if you were loading trucks under there, you could stop the conveyor and the hopper would hold the material as it's crushing while you exchange trucks, and then you'd start the conveyor up again for loading trucks. Here's where the shaker pan comes underneath the jaw crusher to move the material out from under the crusher to go into the bucket conveyor for recycling. Now we'll go look at the P&H. And you've all seen this before. This is my P&H Model 400. This is 1930. I knew that because of the tag on the original Waukesha engine that was in it. But that original engine isn't in it anymore, as the aluminum crankcase had holes corroded right through it. Mice had gotten inside it, and we all know what that does to aluminum. Because you can see it has a cast iron oil pan, aluminum crankcase, and cast iron cylinders bolted to it. This engine looks almost identical to the original. It bolted in exactly the same, but it's a little smaller bore. It was a truck engine. The manifolds from the other engine fit on it and everything, so it basically looks completely correct, but it isn't the original. It's 500 cubic inches. You've all seen it run. See? P&H called it corduroy, the tracks. So I just thought I wanted to show you what I call the Allen Rudolf collection. The crane, the crusher, the Cat 60, and the 36 Ford truck for servicing all belong to him, and has a lot of sentimental value to me, and I intend to keep the collection all as one as long as I'm alive. So I hope you kind of enjoyed it, and I got to get it starting to move equipment home. Thanks again for watching.